Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. You ever drive through one of those towns that doesn't show up on any GPS? That's how I ended up in Dreadline. I'd been on the road for hours, taking back roads to avoid the weekend highway traffic when I noticed my fuel was low. No gas stations ahead, but I passed a crooked sign that read, Dreadline, 3 miles. No population count, no slogan, just a splintered arrow pointing into thick woods. The road narrowed until it was barely more than a single lane. Trees clawed at both sides of my car, and then, just like that, I broke through the brush and entered a perfectly still little town. 2-story brick buildings, a diner with silver siding, a barber shop with a pole that wasn't spinning, and a post office that looked abandoned even though the light was on. I pulled up to the only gas station. An elderly man in coveralls came out, his hands black with oil. "How far you headin'?" he asked without looking at me. "Just passing through," I said, handing him my card. "You don't pass through Dreadline," he muttered, and then nodded toward the water tower that loomed behind the general store. "You're going to want to keep your eyes off that come nightfall." I thought he was joking. I laughed. He didn't. After filling up, I wandered into the diner for a bite. It smelled like bacon and mold. A woman in a waitress uniform stood behind the counter. She was smiling, but her eyes looked like they hadn't blinked in minutes. On the wall behind her was a faded newspaper article framed in cracked glass. "Third child gone missing. Tower search called off." I pointed at it. "Old headline." She didn't answer, just poured coffee that I hadn't asked for and said, "You should leave before it gets dark." I stepped outside as the sun dipped behind the tree line. That's when I saw it, the water tower. It stood high above the town, rusted, its surface warped and blotchy like something had been clawing from the inside. And worse, I could have sworn I saw something crawling along its side. No rope, no ladder, just pale limbs and jerking movements. I blinked. Gone. I backed away, heart pounding, and turned to get in my car. That's when the gas station man called out, "Too late now, just don't look again, no matter what you hear." But of course, I did, and now I think it saw me. I didn't sleep that night. I tried leaving town the moment I got in my car, but the road I'd come from was gone. I don't mean I missed a turn. I mean it had vanished. One moment there was cracked pavement and forest. The next, only thick woods, deeper than before. My GPS just blinked a red circle and said, "Route not found." Back at the diner, the lights were still on. Same waitress, same smile. She was still standing behind the counter, hadn't moved. Not 1 inch. Only this time, her mouth was open, like she wanted to scream, but couldn't. Her eyes were leaking something black. I ran. I ended up outside the general store, where a line of people stood facing the water tower. Their heads were tilted up, like they were watching a movie. One of them was a child, a girl in pigtails. Her skin looked gray in the moonlight. No one spoke. They just stood there, transfixed. Then I heard it. A metallic thud. Then another. Like something heavy dragging across the tank. My instincts screamed to run, to look away. But curiosity is a damn curse. I looked. It was closer. The thing on the water tower wasn't crawling anymore. It was standing now, long stretched limbs like jointed sticks, and skin so pale it nearly glowed. No face, just holes. 3 of them, where the eyes and mouth should have been, and I swear on my life, it was smiling. I ran into the woods. Branches snapped against my arms. I didn't care. I just had to put distance between me and that thing. But the deeper I went, the quieter it became. No wind, no bugs, no footsteps but mine. Until another pair joined in. They didn't sound like footsteps. They were wet, like slaps of meat against mud. Fast, erratic, gaining on me. I tripped, hit the dirt. When I looked up, I saw it again, standing between the trees, tilting its head like a curious child. And then it whispered, not out loud, but inside my skull, "Now you belong to the tower." I blacked out. When I came to, it was morning. The road had returned. My car was where I left it. The town was gone. No diner, no gas station, just trees and cracked asphalt. I drove until I found a signal and called the police. They found nothing. But here's the thing. Every night now, I hear water dripping, even when the faucets are off. I hear a thud against my roof. And sometimes, in my dreams, I see the tower again, but each time it's closer, and one day soon, I know I'll wake up and find it right outside my window. Everyone in Lowridge knows not to go near the Red Barn. It sits at the farthest edge of town, past the dry creek bed and the hollowed cottonwoods. Locals say it was once part of an old farm that burned down in the 40s. No one rebuilt it. No one ever tore it down. It just remained. I didn't grow up in Lowridge, though. I moved there 2 weeks ago for a quieter life, to escape the buzz of city noise. The town had charm, quaint shops, friendly smiles, and a stillness I'd been craving. So when my realtor warned me, "Don't go walking too far out that way," I laughed it off. That was my first mistake. It started with the livestock. First, a neighbor's goat went missing, then 2 of her chickens, feathers found in a perfect spiral near the barn's trailhead. She blamed coyotes, but even she didn't sound convinced. "Too clean," she mumbled. "Coyotes don't arrange things like that." Next came the howling. It didn't sound like any animal I'd ever heard. It wasn't loud. It was low, like something trying to hum through water. It happened only at night, always just after 3 a.m., and always coming from the barn's direction. Then I found the rope. It was wrapped neatly on my porch railing one morning, frayed at one end, old but coiled like a gift. I didn't touch it. I left it there. Next night, it was gone. I asked around. Everyone had a story. Mrs. Hill at the bakery said her cousin saw a man walk into the barn in '76 and never come out. Sheriff Dorsey once swore he found rows of shoes lined up just outside the barn door, all barefoot, all muddy, no footprints. Still, curiosity gnawed at me. One night, just before dusk, I took a flashlight and walked toward the field. The barn sat crooked under a burnt orange sky, its paint blistered and peeling. The closer I got, the colder it felt. I mean, physically cold, like stepping into a freezer. And then I saw the footprints. They led from the entrance, right toward me, but there were no prints leading away, just a trail of dirt and something wet, almost black in the fading light. And then, as I stood there staring, the barn door creaked open on its own. A shadow moved just beyond it, something tall, gaunt, unnaturally still, and it whispered my name. I froze. The whisper wasn't loud, but it was clear, too clear. It wasn't just a sound in the air. It was inside my ears, inside my head. My name, spoken in a rasp I didn't recognize. The barn door opened a little wider, creaking like dry bones. I should have turned and run, but I didn't. Instead, I stepped forward, one slow, stupid step. My flashlight flickered. That shadow inside didn't move, but it felt aware, like it was watching, not with eyes, but with something deeper, ancient. The air smelled of rust and damp hay, but underneath it all was something sweet, almost syrupy, like rotting fruit. I stepped inside. The floor was lined with straw, but it was soaked in something dark. My boots stuck a little with each step. The interior was vast and wrong, like the barn stretched deeper than it should. Tools hung from the walls, but they were twisted, rusted into shapes I couldn't name. At the center was a chair, an old wooden one with ropes tied to each leg. Beside it sat a metal bucket, half filled with black liquid that seemed to ripple on its own. There were symbols scratched into the floorboards around it. Some were fresh, others looked carved from the inside out. And then I heard breathing, not mine. It came from above. I slowly tilted the flashlight upward, and that's when I saw it. There was something crawling along the rafters, long limbs, jointed wrong, skin pulled tight over its bones. Its eyes, if that's what they were, glowed faintly red, like dying coals. It didn't blink. It didn't stop. It dropped straight down. I fell backward, hit the floor hard, and scrambled. But the thing didn't attack. It just crouched near the chair and stared. Then it pointed, one long, splintery finger, at the bucket. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I hit the gravel road and could see the lights of town. I tried to tell Sheriff Dorsey, but his face went pale the moment I mentioned the bucket. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "You're lucky it let you leave." Let me. Those words haunt me. Because for the last 3 nights, the rope has returned, coiled on my porch again, each time a little newer, a little tighter. And last night, the barn door wasn't open anymore. It was shut. But this time, there were 2 sets of footprints, one leading in, one leading out, and both of them ended at my front door.